What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rip City Rundown. And a few days ago, the Wall Street Journal dropped an article about the Portland Trail Blazers titled "The Mystery of the NBA Team That Billions Can't Buy." And it went in depth on the entire situation with Phil Knight trying to buy the Blazers and why Jody Allen won't sell the Blazers. And in this video, I'm going to dig into that and reveal that this is not a good situation for the Blazers. And by all means, we really need Phil Knight to get his hands on the Blazers and very soon. Before we get into the video, I want to thank MyBookie for sponsoring it. Of course, MyBookie's been a great partner with Rip City Rundown over the last month, and they will continue to be a partner throughout the future. As you see right now, you can bet on the finals, you can bet on the French Open, and you can bet on MLB, NASCAR, Stanley Cup, whatever you want. Currently, Denver opens up at its 2.5-point favorite for this upcoming Game 3. I like Denver in a bounce-back spot, to be honest, so I would take that 2.5. But the kicker for us Blazer fans, as you see on the left side, NBA draft odds soon to be released. You can bet on who's going to be the third pick of the NBA draft. Do you think it'll be Scoot? Do you think Brandon Miller will drop? Do you think it could be Amen Thompson? It could be any of those guys. If you are truly, truly confident on one of those guys being the pick, you can go over to MyBookie and bet using code RIPCITY. If you do use code RIPCITY, you can get a welcome bonus up to $1,000. That is code RIPCITY. Live lines, everything you want on MyBookie. If you haven't checked out our best bet series, go check that out, as we are 10-1 in our last 11, all lines, all odds on MyBookie. So use code RIPCITY to get yourself some free money on MyBookie and get in on the betting action for the rest of the NBA Finals and more sports to come. Let's get back into the video. So obviously, to set the scene, the backstory, we know Phil Knight, huge presence in Portland. He starts Nike in Oregon and Beaverton, and he's built a powerhouse out there. He invests in the University of Oregon, and they've turned into a sports powerhouse. So what Phil Knight touches genuinely turns into good things. And he is super oriented in Portland and in just the state of Oregon. He loves that place. There's no reason he would ever want to move the Blazers if he were to buy it. He even says it plenty of times in the article, and even says it just plenty of times in public, that he wants to keep the Blazers in Portland if he were to buy the team. And then obviously we set the scene last year. This whole thing comes to light for the first time, that Phil Knight and partner Alan Smolinski, the current owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, tried to buy the Blazers from Jody Allen back in the midst of the 2022 NBA Finals. So about this time last year in early June. They tried to buy the Blazers for $2 billion, and Jody Allen obviously declined, which is fair. I think the Blazers are probably valued at more than $2 billion, especially after this recent selling of the Suns just a couple months ago when they sold for over $4 billion. However, the really just disturbing thing, not necessarily disturbing, that might be too strong of a word, but the disappointing thing about this whole thing is we really have yet to see Jody Allen come and speak out about why she should be the Blazers owner, other than the fact that she's her brother's sister and she got full control ever since Paul Allen's passing back in 2018. Obviously, Blazers fans love Paul Allen. He was always in the building. He was always making moves to try to get the Blazers to win. He brought winning to Portland, and he brought stability to a team that we realize we don't always have. When we had that stability, I think we took it for granted. I mean, Portland is not a huge market. Just like that, we see Seattle. They got a team yanked away from them. And I think Portland, if they were to move a team in the future, I mean, Portland has to be near the top of that list. It's one of the smallest markets. And even though I'm a Portland Trail Blazers fan, I can recognize that we don't have an owner that I think really, really loves Portland and really loves the Portland Trail Blazers, because through the things she's done. I know she's not had the best situation here with Damian Lillard being injured and all that stuff, but she hasn't tried to pay for winning basketball. She's not going over the luxury tax. She's making moves to keep the Blazers under the luxury tax, so she clearly isn't trying to spend money on a championship. Maybe she does that this offseason, but until she does that, she's going to be labeled as a cheap owner, because that's what she's really shown so far. The most annoying thing that I found from this article is it's not only last year that Phil Knight tried to buy the Blazers. He's been trying to do it ever since that moment last year in early June, and he's tried to do it up until today, as I'm recording this, Monday, June 5th. And it says in the article, so Knight and Smolinski tried again, according to a person familiar with their plans. On numerous occasions, including earlier this year, they made it clear to Jody Allen that they still wanted to make a deal. They indicated that they realized the price has gone up and that they were willing to pay more than their initial offer, this person said. Again, Knight's calls to Jody Allen were diverted to Coldy. and nothing came to the brief discussions. And this Colde person is friends of Jody Allen, and he was friends of Paul Allen as well during his time as the owner of the Blazers. But it seems like Jody Allen has kind of given Colde the reins on what to do with the team, and they're kind of neck and neck on what they want to do with this future team. The kicker is the NBA is going to step in at some point, and they're going to have to sell this team, because if you have a trust ownership group, something where it's passed on due to a death of a previous owner, it's going to have to get sold. Paul Allen even left instructions for his trust to sell the team in the future once he passes away and donate majority of the funds to charity. Now, it doesn't say how long it's going to take. Typically, it shouldn't take any more than 10 years. However, the trust and the Allen family is saying that it could take anywhere to 10 to 20 years, which is a little disturbing because that's not the case with most things like this. I think they're just really trying to slow play it for the reasons that I don't even know. But it is disappointing as a Blazer fan because we're getting impatient because we want this team to have winning success. And a big part of winning nowadays in the NBA is how much money you spend. And this going back to this whole thing that Jody Allen isn't publicly saying anything, she isn't even privately having conversations with these people, with Phil Knight and Alan Smolinski. It says a few months ago, Smolinski even sent a handwritten letter to Jody Allen seeking common ground and saying he and Knight would love to discuss the Blazers with her, according to a person familiar with the matter. In response, Smolinski received an email from someone replying on Jody Allen's behalf with a familiar message: Paul Allen sports teams aren't on the market. It's just frustrating because if they're not on the market, then can you make a plan on how to get winning basketball in Portland and how to honestly just make the entire franchise just a better franchise? I mean, we have one of the oldest arenas in the NBA in the Moda Center, and that lease is up, I believe, in 2025, which is a big reason why I want new ownership, and ownership that wants to keep the Blazers in Portland, because once your arena lease is up, there's not a huge reason to stay somewhere. Obviously, you normally typically work for a new arena lease, but there's nothing holding them in Portland if they don't get this arena lease renewed, extended, things like that by 2025. I think we're far away from the Blazers moving out of Portland, but it's not the craziest possibility if Jody Allen keeps it or if Jody Allen sells it to someone not named Phil Knight, because we know Phil Knight is going to keep it in Portland because that's the whole reason he wants to do it. That's not the only reason I think Phil Knight would be a great owner for the Blazers. I mean, obviously Phil Knight, he's just done incredible things in the city of Portland and in the state of Oregon. He started Nike. He made Portland and the state of Oregon, I said city of Oregon earlier, but the state of Oregon, kind of into a business so-called powerhouse, because Nike, I mean, it was really unheard of for a brand like that to thrive in the state of Oregon, and he made that happen. And he donates billions of dollars to the University of Oregon, and now they're an athletic powerhouse. So if you're Phil Knight, you're trying to buy the Blazers because you want to own a winning basketball team, and you're 85 years old, so you don't have a lot of time left here, and you want a legacy championship. You want to win a championship for your legacy. If you're buying the Blazers at 85, you're not buying them to slow play it and try to win a championship in 15 years. You're trying to win right now because you want to see that championship. You want it to happen while you are, quite frankly, alive. Now, that has its pros and cons because obviously, given the fact he is 85, he could buy the team in, say, 2-3 years, buy it at 88. We have no clue how long he'll end up living, and then we could be in this whole situation again in 5, 10, 15 years. And obviously, that's not something we want to have happen. But if you want to win a championship as soon as possible, Phil Knight is probably the best way to go when it comes to ownership. Look, I'm kind of hot on this. I'm passionate about this because I read this article for the first time just earlier today. I saw it came out a couple days ago, but I didn't really want to read it. I didn't think it had that big of a deal, but I decided to read it. And it's just made me a little fiery because I just don't think Jody Allen is a great owner for the Blazers. She says, "My brother Paul and I talked about the sports teams often, and I regularly advised him and team leaders on various matters. I led development of both Moda Center and Lumen Field and have attended games for many years." And then this is the quote that frustrates me the most. "As chair, my focus is building championship teams and managing the franchises for the long term. Today, I work regularly with the GMs, presidents, and coaches on significant sports, business, and organization decisions and have final say on strategic moves such as key hires, trades, and player extensions." That right there is not what you want from an owner that clearly doesn't want to spend a lot of money. It says she has the final say on strategic moves such as key hires, trades, and player extensions. No wonder the Blazers haven't traded, and no wonder the Blazers haven't shelled out a lot of money to a bunch of people the past couple years, because she's the head of everything that's running everything. Obviously, they've paid Dame. They're hopefully going to pay Grant this summer. They traded for Grant. But we go back to the trade deadline of 2022 when you're trading CJ, Norm, Rocco, Nance. You didn't get a lot of return back. You wanted to clear your books. At the time, that was a solid decision because we anticipated we were going to pay a lot of money for players in the summer, but we didn't do that. We ended up having clear books, staying under the luxury tax because we don't want to spend money on a championship team. You're probably not going to win a championship if you don't go over the luxury tax. And for those that obviously don't know, anything over the luxury tax, that's paid by the owner. What makes no sense is these owners are extremely wealthy and rich, and they have the money to do it. I don't really know why they don't do it, but it's just another thing they just don't want to do. We look at the Suns. The Suns are not trading for Kevin Durant if they don't get that new owner, Matt Asheba. The Warriors aren't signing Kevin Durant if they don't have an ambitious owner that wants to spend the money that wins championships. Jody Allen might have that, might want to do that down the line. She might want to win a championship next year. But until she shells the money and spends the dough, I can't believe that, and I'm going to look at her as not a great not a great owner, because she hasn't shown me any reasons that she should be a great owner. Look, Phil Knight, I think, is probably the most famous businessman, famous businesswoman, famous business person to come out of Oregon that I know of. There could be other ones, at least in athletics, that I know, in sports. He is the perfect owner for the Blazers. He's already announced a $400 million gift that he's giving towards rebuilding the historic black community in Portland and the surrounding area around the Moda Center. He will make the Blazers great. He will make the surrounding area of Moda Center great, and then hopefully he will turn Portland around because obviously Portland's gone down in population and up in crime in the last couple years. So I don't see a world where Phil Knight becomes the owner unless he becomes the owner and then tragically something happens and we're in this situation in the very near future. I don't see a world where Phil Knight buys this team and this team doesn't get better. So selfishly, as a fan of the Portland Trail Blazers, first and foremost, that just wants to see winning basketball, I would love Phil Knight to buy the Blazers, and I would love Jody Allen to just be a little more open to selling it. Have a conversation with them. Don't just send your right-hand man to tell them, no, they're not for sale, Jody doesn't want to talk to you. Have some conversations, have some negotiations, and if you do want to intend on keeping the team, map out a plan for how this team is going to be good. Because if you don't care at all, then why have the team? Why have the team? Paul Allen wanted this team to be sold once he passed away. So what's holding you back on selling it now? That's all I got for this video. There's so much more to talk about. We'll probably get into it a little more in depth, a little more just conversation style in the podcast that will come out on Wednesday. So go check out that when it drops. And comment down below if you want Phil Knight to be the Blazers owner in the future, because I think that would be pretty cool. I just watched the Air movie about how Nike signed Michael Jordan, and that got me fired up to want Phil Knight as my owner. I can tell you that. So go watch that movie if you haven't. Remember, go check out my bookie, code RIPCITY. Link's top comment. Link is the top comment in the comments. So go check that out, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace.